hello. Oh, I feel like my light is too bright. That happens
Honey,
sometimes.
there's no such thing. No such thing.
Hello, Lawryn
Oh,
LaCroix. Do you know how much fun I have saying your name? Lawryn LaCroix.
do you know how much fun I'm having that we're wearing the same color and like we did not chat about this?
Right though, right? That's the serendipitous. But before we get too deep into everything, I will give you a little intro. So
Oh, I get an
I
intro.
will say, I will say that the last time we saw each other, I still knew you as an actress, but you are now in a new chapter of your career as a producer,
Yeah.
not just in the United States, but also in England. So we'll chat a little bit about all that. But everyone who's watching here or later on, please help me welcome the incredible Lawryn LaCroix.
You're so cute. I
Just
was
call
hoping
hello.
to see your hair. Do you not still have the same like?
Oh, it's been tamed a little bit
Oh,
because
I love it.
it was a lot. I put it down for our Meg for my interview with Meg.
Hmm.
For everyone watching now, Meg Murphy was our last interview. She is a fellow Marymounter, along with Lauren and I. I think I want to say that I graduated maybe the year before you guys did,
I think
um, or,
I don't. Oof. I
or
think you
like a
did.
semester maybe before.
I can't even
'Cause I
like.
was a transfer. I was a transfer student, so.
That's
But hey, good times, good times.
good times.
But I guess that would be a good place to start off. Di- so I stayed in New York for a little bit, but then I eventually came back to DC.
Hmm.
Did you go back home at all, or was it New York City, then England?
I haven't gone back to Texas, so I stayed
Uh-huh.
in New York, and still in New York City. Love New York City, and then started working in the UK about maybe like 4 years ago, and then
Okay.
it just like steadily did that, and then I moved to London to get my master's simultaneously of working on a couple projects. So it was a lot.
Oh, good stuff. And so I guess take us up until let's say like the end of 2019. Let's see, like right up until like what did you have projects lined up? Did you have like you're always doing something. You're always having a lot of projects going on. What were you up to like right before the pandemic?
So right before the pandemic, I was producing the play Sinners by Joshua Sobol, in London, and it was directed by Brian Cox, and that's where I was. I was there, um, doing that, and sort of all of the coronavirus stuff was like popping up, and like Italy
Yeah.
was closing and Spain was closing and Switzerland
Mhm.
was closing, but for some reason the UK was like, no, keep calm and carry on. Like, this is crazy. Like something is happening. I didn't want to be like that pessimistic individual, but I was like,
Right.
something's happening. So man, that was the end of 2019 was sort of like prepping to get that show up. That show went up February, March. And at the very end, hey Jacob, the very end of the show was March 15th. And I flew back to New York City March 16th. And everything went into lockdown March 17th.
Ooh.
That's been my journey.
So have you worked at all during this pandemic? Have
Yes.
you had to say no to projects maybe even?
I'm knock on wood. I watched what you did with Megan. That was lovely, and I'm the same as her. I'm super fortunate that I've continued to work through this process. I also finished my master's through this process, which was
Mhm.
crazy.
Right.
Um, yeah, that was insane. So I'm lucky the fact that I've still been able to make my living and work through 2020.
One of the projects that you're working on um, is a play competition, but it's a take on something called a scratch night.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
can you explain to me what scratch night is? And we do, I think, have to give a shout out to Scranton Shakespeare Festival. Is that who it is
Mhm.
that you're partnering with? You and your Pink House Productions.
Oh,
Okay.
you're good, boo.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Alrighty, alrighty.
Ready.
Still got some research in me.
Yes. Yeah, so I got this new project and it's called we're calling it the Scranton Scratch Night. It is a play, it's a play on words in itself. But it's taken from the tradition in the UK that's heavy of a scratch night. It can be in a black box theater, it can be big, it can be in a pub. Do you know what I mean? Like the ones I've seen are always in a pub, and you sort of a group of playwrights get up with their people and they read about the best 10 minutes really of their shows that they've written.
Okay.
And then the people judge what is the best, so it's like it is all of our favorite reality TV shows. Do you know what I mean? So what we're
Okay.
doing with Scranton is the same. So we have this open submission period that's still going. We have a week left, which is exciting. We have over 100 and some odd submissions, which is crazy, and it's
Right, right.
international, which is good. But what will happen after we close submissions is we go and we pick the top four,
Mm-hmm.
that our readers and that our people have liked, and then information will disclose later. We have a really, really fancy host that will host the event that will be on a digital platform in February with a group of 5 industry judges that all have their weight to them in their in their respected industries. And then they pick the winner. And the best thing about the Scratch Night that I got is that I'm partnering with Scranton Shakes, who will then take that winner and fully produce them in 2021 for their festival, and they celebrate their 10th year anniversary. So that's the cool part about the grind that is still happening right now on the producer side.
Yeah, and how did that opportunity come about? As a fellow producer, I'm finding myself uh, creating my own work, and I know that some people are maybe not as fortunate as I am to have worked on this sort of digital project for the last however many years, too
Yeah.
many years. But how was it that you got connected with Scranton? Did you have a relationship beforehand, or was it
Yeah,
this a
so
brand
I
new?
work with Scranton as an actor, and like
Okay.
my mission in life is, I love and I know that you can understand it too, is I look up my role models in my life have always been Viola Davis and Kara Washington and Rashida Jones and Naomi Harris, and like we can get into even more of like the actors that are in the UK, but they are even kill actor producers, and there is a massive flaw for people of color, and still to this day, and even more now that it's been outed over the last couple of years. So I fell in love with producing because of that and because of this strong point that they had in their career, and wanted to do that for myself. So I'm still even kill as an actor, but I have taken the last year off and really strengthened my producing skills. And I'm really fortunate to have done that.
And how important was for you to take that break from acting and dedicate this last year to producing?
Really crucial. I think
Hmm.
I felt tired. I felt really burnt
Yeah.
out. You know what I mean? It's like it was a constant going to Marymount, graduating Marymount, then hitting New York City, then doing that circuit, then trying to get, here, all the kind of stuff. And then also trying to do work that you felt proud of, which, as we know, working in New York City can be, that can be slim. Uh, so I got to the point where I had found like my group of people that we created a show basically together, and it was called Your Alice, and we did it at BAM, and then we did it at Edinburgh Fringe, and then we brought it to London, and it was sort of like that launching point for me, really saying I want to do this producer thing, and
Yeah.
didn't want to just do the producer thing and not be good at it, but also know enough about the producer thing, that if I look back on myself like 2 years ago, I'm proud of like the kind of path that I've taken, and I'm happy to like be here right now with the knowledge that I have, being able to talk to you about it.
Yeah, yeah. And what has been the biggest surprise for you taking that leap uh, and saying goodbye to auditions and acting and having to
Right.
wake
It
up
was
for
lovely.
calls?
It was great.
Yeah,
It was so much fun. It was so nice. And I was like, bye,
right.
everything. Because I don't in our industry, it's a mindset. Everything that we do is a mindset. And so to say I'm going to take a break and I'm going to do something else was rough because of other people. It wasn't because like you know what I mean? It wasn't because of myself. If anything, it was lovely and it was freeing for myself because you can find what it is that you actually want to do and fall in love with your craft all over again. The discovery of being that producer that is an actor is how many people actually do it and how many people have a misunderstanding of what producers are. And that's because in our country, in the US, we have very little government funding for the arts. So anything that we do is either broke or commercial. You know what I mean?
Right.
Ain't no in between here. But
Mm-hmm.
when you get to the UK, you have a lot of mid-level producers in that stepping stone, and you see the work that they produce in the various forms and mediums that they do it in. And then the arts become obtainable. And that's what I like about being that person. And, you know, I'm super lucky to be able to work and flip back and forth. But to work in the UK is always really rewarding because of that.
Is it different being an artist or creator of color in the UK than it is in the United States?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's different because you know, when I'm over there, obviously I'm a Black woman, but I'm a Black American, and that is its own thing as well.
Okay.
And then being over here, it is interesting being a Black American theater producer. Do you know what I mean? Who does that, but who also does film, but on the shorthand version of it. Do you know what I mean? So it's interesting being able to sort of balance the two and then sort of try on those hats and see like which one you are when you get to certain places to make your artwork.
Yeah, yeah. And as an artist of color and at one point an administrator, you know, I used to have 9 to 5 jobs in the theater business, you know. You gain these survival skills, and even, you know, in Marymount, you gain them to not only fit in but also to stand out. Yeah. Well, but do you have any survival skills that you personally have? Maybe any tricks of the trade that you have for anyone who is looking to produce their own work or produce someone else's work?
I mean,
Yeah.
I at Marymount, that time of life, I did anything I could to like. I mean, it had to be legal. I did anything that I could. Some of it was not. Anything I could to like do right by myself. And I found myself I was a personal assistant for a really long time. And that was fantastic on one end and absolutely horrible on the other end. But I found that being that personal assistant was really probably the precursor to me being a producer, because you were responsible for someone else's life. You know what I mean? And you had to be, and you had to make sure that their stuff was right, and you had to make sure that like there's people were paid and that they got in the cars that they needed to go. You know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. Also, my other survival job is I worked countless film festivals as staff and did wonderful things for Sundance and Tribeca and Nantucket and Hampton. I mean, it was like so much fun, a lot of work was so much fun. But that mixed with the personal assisting made it very clear to me that I liked organization. And you know how it was at school and how it can be for a lot of actors is that a lot of people want to like place you in things, or like if you're good at this and you're not that creative and if you're blah, blah, blah. But I do think that there are so many different things that happen to you as you get older and as you develop a certain side of yourself. And as you really start to be okay with some of your wants that people have told you not to be okay with. And I love organization. Dear God, I love it when it's just like, this is what I want to do and this is how it's gonna happen. You know what I mean? As a producer, it's dope because I can hire my own people and I can, you know, Pink House is a fantastic vehicle for me and I'm so proud of it. that I can really hire a lot of fantastic producers that have no names for themselves. Do you know what I mean? And then we can have
Right.
a project that is, you know, that's getting attention from Playbill, and they're really, really dope, and they're helping us market this machine.
Definitely. And going off of something you said, like as someone who has been in numerous workshops as a dramaturg or director, you know, just someone giving ears and eyes to a piece, I sometimes, you know, that one chance is that thing that just opens the door to so many different possibilities. And that one chance is that one thing that for some reason people
Mm.
that look like us just aren't given the opportunity sometimes.
And it's
And hence why I think we're here, you know, both making
yeah.
our own work.
I often think that it's not even that we're not given the opportunities; it's the fact that we don't know they exist.
Right.
So
Right.
it's really making it very clear that my mission, Pink House's thing is I love assembling female teams. And that doesn't mean that I only produce female stories. It doesn't mean I only produce Black stories. It doesn't mean I only produce stories that I can identify with. It's the fact that I really love art, that a story that we can all gut feel to. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then I
Mhm.
love it when the team is all female. I
Right.
dear God, I love it when that happens. So that's always my thing coming out of the bat. If I get hired on as a producer or anything that happens, I always say point blank, like, I'm gonna look for female lighting. I'm gonna look for, if it's film, I'm gonna look for a female gaffer. If it's theater, I'm gonna look for costume design. You know what I mean? And so to be able to build my roster and have all of these dope females in the arts, that people don't know of, I love passing them off. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. As a producer, you work through Pink House, but you are not the only person in Pink House. You have a team, I
Yep.
believe, of cohorts.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to give them a shout out?
I
Let's.
do. I do to Kate McGuire and Jennifer Jones and man, all of the dope females that I've worked with, and Kate and Jen and we got our masters together, and they're fantastic producers that are. Kate's located in Wales, and Jen is located in Liverpool because we're all displaced, right, because of coronavirus. But at
Right.
one point in time, we were all coagulating in London together. Um, and yeah, those are my girls for Pink House, for working on Scranton Scratch Night right now. Um, I again, like I said, for every project that I have, I sort of I look at what the project needs and what the project is going to need, and you know, going forward, and I know in the back of my mind what producer I would hire for that kind of role.
Yeah, yeah. Um, with Pink House, you mentioned some
Project in
films.
Brooklyn.
Yeah, being in Brooklyn, New York, I kind of feel like is like very much like the hub of theater. But how is it being a filmmaker in New York?
Oh yeah, I mean it's thick. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
New York is such a hub. New York has it has film. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it has such wonderful filmmakers. I got really fortunate. Maybe about 5 years ago, started working with this documentary film festival called Doc NYC, and
Okay.
Doc NYC was my introduction to documentary film, and fell in love really with documentary film, and now am really great friends with a lot of people that are like deep into that pool. Again, female, and again, you know, female filmmakers and doc filmmakers. You know, like it's rough, it's gritty, it's guerrilla. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
they're strong, and they're strong in stature, and they're strong in morals and character, and so that's dope. Um, but yeah, I mean, specifically, I'm in Bushwick, like I'm in Brooklyn, and we have Be Electric here. That's a fantastic studio. We have that's for film. I mean, we have, oh man, there's just so many things that are here that
Yeah.
I hope survive. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because we're going on what, 10 months now of nobody really being into anything, and a possible shutdown coming next. So I'm
Right.
sort of doing my best as like a pseudo philanthropist
Mhm.
of making sure that the places that I love are surviving.
Um, One of my rules as a historian, I one of my pillars of how to change the culture is that love and money will fix all your problems.
Oh my God.
And you know what? Right now, there's a lot of love, but we need some money. Where's my gong? I have a gong for when I mansplain. So
I know. I know.
this counts as a mansplanation.
That is, I love it. Oh, I love that part that you say. I love the mansplanation.
You know, I'm just trying to use my powers for good, and I already do it, you know? It just comes, I think it comes a lot from being Hispanic, where like
Right.
being male is very,
Yeah,
very present. Yeah, it's very much like part of your identity. It's ingrained in you. Like, oh, you're a man. You're gonna provide one day, and I'm just like, no, I'm not.
I'm gonna provide in my own way.
You know? I have a caffeine addiction and a 2-year-old pup, so
Okay,
that's all
so
I care.
speaking of caffeine addictions, this is probably the most bouge thing. I'm still exactly the same person that I was at Marymount, except we're all 29 now. You know what I mean? But like
Right, right.
the deal about I'm currently drinking an iced coffee in a wine glass because it's 2020. So
Love it, love it. I drink everything out of a coffee mug, so it's two sides of the same coin. Is there anything that brings you back to Marymount? Is there anything that you do that is just like, oh my God, I'm right there again?
oh my God, you know what? It's funny. Every time it hits fall, you
Okay,
know,
yeah.
like in that smell of fall in the air in the city, I instantly think of Marymount. I think of like school starting. I think of like running through the Upper East Side on Third Avenue trying to like get to class on time. I think of like Strawberry Fest, or like
Strawberry.
seeing David Mole in the hallway and just being like, oh my God, or seeing Barbara Adrian and you're eating a
Right.
burger. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I
Like
think
your
of
people?
I think of all that. I think of Ellen in her Febreze, you know what I mean?
Oh my
Just not
goodness.
having it. Yeah, I think of Marymount a lot, and it's funny because I went Marymount undergrad, and shout out to Mount View in London for grad. So I'm like somewhat addicted to schools with M's.
Okay,
I
okay,
guess that's what
yeah,
it is
yeah,
in high school, but yeah, no, I do think of Marymount because it for me it was a very joyous time, and not
yeah.
everything was great, but
Right.
I did have I am very fortunate of like my time at Marymount, and still friends with people from Marymount, and
Same, same.
life's kicking on. It's like you. I mean, this is fantastic, and then you had Meg before, and like I haven't talked to Meg in forever, and she's doing super well, and that's exciting.
Everyone's doing like such amazing things,
Yeah.
and it's just so inspiring.
Mhm.
And I I I don't know if it's because of Marymount or because we all sort of like became each other's like support system, because
Right.
we were basically in a conservatory like that.
I mean, it
Like,
was like it
you
was.
know,
I mean, yeah, it's funny to like think back, and it's like that BFA track was so intense.
oh yeah, yeah.
That BFA track was so intense that it was definitely tunnel vision. It was rose-colored glasses. Sometimes it was so many things, and then do you know that if I could think of anything, that roughest part is when you graduate and you're just sort of you were just now getting comfortable with being at the school and the stage and the people and what it was to do what you do, and then you're thrusted out into New York City with thousands of other people from other programs doing the same thing. Do you know what I mean? So always in the back of my mind, I'm like, I would love to go back and do something with those graduating seniors, that BFA track, and just be like, look,
Right, right.
like,
I mean, like I will say that I was incredibly lucky in that I was successful, very early on. I had a directing fellowship before even graduating. Like
cool.
I had like things lined up, but it's when things got like normal that I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like what? Like I can't.
It's 18
What am I
hours.
doing with my life?
It's when time kicks in, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like
Well, like I.
survive, keep going, and do you in any kind of capacity that you need.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that was it, and I just sort of like kind of kept it like that. It wasn't until it became very clear to me of the certain glass ceilings that you can come up against in New York City that I was like, now needs to be a transition. Something needs to happen, like for you. And then
Yeah.
that's when I was like, you know what? Go back to your favorite people. What is Viola Davis doing? You know what I mean? Like, what is she done with? And then I found out about Juvie Productions, like her production company, Kerry Washington production company, Rashida Jones production company, Naomi Harris's production company. Naomi Harris has a production company in London specifically called Albright for women to come in of the arts and just go like that. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, okay. You know? And then you start to think to yourself and you're like, no, because for some reason we put it in our heads that we have to do one track and that is what life is. And it's not, you know what I mean? It became so interesting. Then I
I've
started
learned to
applying
play
for
the long
professionals.
game.
It's a
I've
long
learned to
game.
play the long game. Yeah.
Someone said that to me pretty early. I was really lucky and I worked with Apatha Murkinson on a show.
Ooh.
She's, oh my God, the stuff that,
Speaking of like legendary people.
the stuff that came out of her mouth, I was like, I'm not ready. Like no one was ready. And she said it's a survival game. And that's what it's been for her career. And it's do you, keep doing you. And then one day you're going to look around and you're still doing you and sort of it's gone away. You know, it's like, it's interesting. I love that they do this and then it shows later. Do you know what I mean? Like that's really cool.
Definitely. Like I will say that I have become very good at figuring out my audience, but I'm still learning what the binge audience wants. And so
Right.
like I'm just working with doing what I can with the material and then whatever land happens, like
But yeah,
that's
I
cool.
use social media personally, but I work with a fantastic online marketer who knows the ins and outs of how to use social media for
Cool.
work and stuff like that. What she does, I do not know. That is why I can't even tell you what she does because I think it's magic.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? But she's like, no, it's logic. And I'm like, okay. But
That's a
yeah,
good way of putting it. Yeah.
I think the deal about social media is it's a following, right? It's some sort of a personality thing, do you know, that of what people like, and that's why I use it as like a personal kind of like a thing to push some stuff out. I do funny shot,
Oh yeah.
like something I just posted of I had high anxiety before the world almost ended. So
Is it gone now? Um, is there, speaking of high anxiety though, is there anything you do to relax? Like what's that thing you do to whew.
one, I love wine.
Uh-huh.
I am not afraid to say that I am a very talented drinker. And I love wine. I love gin. I love, that kind of stuff. Respectfully, I'm smart. And then also, I should probably say this. I do like working out. I've sort of tried to become a runner. It's not in my blood or anything, but it's nice.
Same,
It's
same.
nice to like get some kind of stuff out. But before the world ended, I was a walker, like everywhere. Tried not to take the train, even in London. It was just sort of like walk as far as I could get, take a bus, take a train really quickly, just to get over a bridge or something like that, and then keep it going. Just time for like yourself to think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think once we get through this, if we get through this, what do you think is going to be different about you?
I hope everything.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hope this changes a lot. There's going to be a lot of casualties. There have been casualties with people. We do know that, but there's going to be a lot of casualties with institutions and houses. And it's really going to change how people see the work, how they do the work. It's going to affect things financially, how much money things are going to be given. And this is just in the States. And then it'll change the audience. Do you know what I mean? Like we can realistically say that, and we can just think of ourselves as people. We're not really thinking about people even being inside of a theater to the tail end of 2021, early 2022. That's realistic. And even that's pushing it.
Right.
So I think that there's a lot will change, and I hope a lot changes because we needed to learn from how this is just making this whole time an evil playing field. It's leveling everything.
Mm. One thing I really hope is that we become a little less precious about the art form.
Mm.
It's kind of, I think when we treat everything as if like, oh, every production is magical and beautiful, and we have to put all our magic behind it. It reaches this preciousness that makes it highbrow, but
Yeah.
almost like unattainable, and
Yeah.
yeah, and that for me, I feel like I think we're gonna get rid of, because people are gonna have to experiment. People are gonna have to figure some things out
Right.
because
It's again, it's a leveler. Like, this is the great leveler, and it's making something like what you said. It's making something that's what is considered highbrow go down. You know, it's making projects that would never see the light of day, if they survive, able to. So I'm excited actually for the come up of a lot of people, places, and things. And specifically for producers to really see who these people are that were being held down by that boot. You know what I mean? Of wanting your show to get to St. Anne's but have no idea how to get there, or wanting to play at BAM but not having the deep pocket, or do you know what I mean? Like, people are going to want things coming out of this when it opens. And if you have projects, they will be considered. It's the same that's happening with film right now. If you got something in the can, there are thousands of festivals that are like, please.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think we can learn a lot from early television or earlier television, in
Oh,
that I
yeah.
think right now we're in the cable side of social media and of current
Yeah.
media. You know, like right now it's kind of like, all right, everyone needs to find their niche market,
Mm-hmm.
because everyone is going to stop appeasing everyone.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like you got to figure out what your voice is. You got to figure
Mm-hmm.
out what makes you different. Like
And if you didn't
that.
come out of this whole pandemic not having some serious me time, you missed out.
Oh
You really
yeah,
missed out. I really think.
definitely. You have a lot of uh, network of organizations and of people. How important is it for you as an artist to make these institutional connections?
Very. I think it's
Hmm.
very important. It's very important for people to see people like me.
Yeah.
Very important for people to see people like us.
Hmm.
And it's important that they see us being smart and
Yeah.
having these business skills and these artistic endeavors, that I'm very fortunate in the network that I have and be able to have worked with the people that I worked, because if anything, that's just given me even more opportunity. Um, and like, not to like toot on my own horn, but like, I think
Toot away,
the, great,
toot away.
the greatest, most recent experience that I've had was working with Brian Cox, and the overwhelming sense of like pride and help that he had in me was beyond words. And the fact that everywhere we went, it was like, this is me, this blah blah blah. You know, all it was. Sometimes I would look. I remember I'd look and just be like, I'm not supposed to be here. Like I'm not, I don't know. This is not supposed to be here. And I remember he got mad at me, and he was like, no, you are supposed to be here. Like you're supposed to be here. And I'll never forget that. And that's just the more that we can do, and the more that we can punch up
Yeah.
for who knows. Do you know what I mean? It's exactly what Kamala Harris has been saying this whole campaign, is that she will be the first that we see, but she's not going to be the last. And I think that that means everything for people of color, is to constantly dream and to constantly go forward, and to not let anybody say that you're not doing anything, or that your ideas are too big, or your ideas aren't enough. If anything, if, you know, knock on wood, if I have kids one day, you know, that kind of deal, like, it's a constant, keep going, keep going,
Yeah.
keep going, keep going. Surprise yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Go after something that you think is unattainable, and then and keep going. Do you know what I mean? like life is meant to be fun for you, not for somebody else.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the greatness of that flip in that producer side is it's almost like, and I know you know this, Freddie, you wear so many brains. Like, I mean, like you have multiple brains in your head and you code switch, you speak different languages.
Yes.
Because you have to, right?
Yeah.
And so if, like, I think a part of my dissertation was the fact that I speak 2 different languages, and it's British and American. That's like the difference of what's in between. And I'm not fantastic at what it is in the UK, but dear God, do I understand.
Working in 9-to-5 jobs in the theater industry, I will say being a historian has changed people's perception of me. Like, all of a sudden, if I can speak the language, if I know the references, whoa, all of a sudden I'm just like
you're a different
the
person.
smartest little brown boy they've ever seen. Like, whoa, you've seen Happy Days? Whoa.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, because guess what? I grew up on the same television that everyone else did.
Right.
Yeah. People forget that.
What people perceive. And like, that's a thing.
Well, the thing that's really held me back is that people can't see that someone can be multiple things. You know, like, I have always been very loving, very open, very happy.
Yeah.
And for some reason that doesn't scream leader for me. Every time that I've
and then it's like anxiety with you, and then you're just like, oh, you know, like, this is what I feel you. It's almost like you have to get mad, and then they're like, oh, stereotypical, you know, black angry woman doing some shit. And you're like, no, that's not what it is. It's the fact that you have to get so enraged with yourself that you change. And
yes.
one day it's how it is, right? Like, it's too much, it's too much, it's too much, it's too much, it's just enough. And you're just like, when did that happen?
Yeah. I
have completely canceled 2020. Literally, I told my boo that from the very beginning. I was like, I'm done with 2020. And you do you. Like, I'm growing my hair into what will be hopefully a fro in like 2 years, and like all that kind of stuff. Yeah, like, it just, do you. It's life.
You know, well, you know, like, who am I trying to impress?
Because you ain't going nowhere.
You know, I will say, though, that I do try to at least, like, I try to at least look clean for, like, when I'm hosting things. But I will say that before we get too deep into the time limit, I think we have to wrap things up.
I'm happy. This has been amazing. I'm so happy to talk to you. Like, this has been so cool, and like,
Lori, this has been so wonderful. It's so nice to catch up with you, and like, I know we'll be doing this like more often because will we have a project that we're working on together? I don't know. Ooh, we'll see. But thank you, Miss Lawryn LaCroix.
Thank you. This is dope. I'm so happy for wearing the same colors. It's really cool.
It's very serendipitous. But before we leave, tell us where we can follow you to get the scoop on what Miss LaCroix and Pink Productions is up to.
Yeah, you can follow me, like Lawryn LaCroix. I'm writing here. You can follow Pink House Productions. That's my baby. You can also follow Scrape and Scratch Night, which we have. We're I have a write-up in Playbill and Broadway World, and more to come. And stay tuned.
Good stuff. Thank you, Lawryn. Thank you so much.
Bye.